With each and every passing MCU film, there comes a handful of scenes that didn't actually make the theatrical cut. Whether those scenes were totally removed or tweaked for eventual inclusion, these deleted moments can usually be found featured as bonus material on home releases of said pictures, or even in a list with a humble presenter guiding you through the madness. With all that in mind, I'm Gareth from WhatCulture.com, and here are the 10 best MCU deleted scenes ever. Number 10, a call from Miles Morales. Spider-Man Homecoming. Following his minor role in Captain America Civil War, John Watts' Spider-Man Homecoming gave audiences a fleshed-out and full introduction to the Tom Holland iteration of Old Webhead. Still very much in the infancy of his superhero career, this version of Spider-Man is absolutely still finding his feet in the world of capes and tights. A prime example of this is a moment where the Wallcrawler activates his interrogation mode, as he tries to get information from Donald Glover's Aaron Davis. Of course, any comic book fan worth their salt immediately recognized Glover's character as being the uncle of future Spider-Man Miles Morales. In addition to this, Davis is also the supervillain known as the Prowler. While the inclusion of Aaron Davis in Homecoming was a nice nod to Miles, a deleted scene actually had Aaron take a phone call from his nephew. Left with his hand webbed to his own car courtesy of old Spidey, Aaron has to wait 2 whole hours before he'll be free. After being unable to answer his phone call during this time, we then get a moment where Davis is on a call with Miles, again reiterating that this Spider-Man in waiting exists within the MCU. Number 9, furthering Tony's alcohol abuse, Iron Man 2. Not a deleted scene per se, but an alternative opening here. Said opening belongs to Iron Man 2. In the released cut of this sequel, the film opens up by introducing us to Mickey Rourke's Ivan Vanko, as he watches his ex-Stark Industries father die before his eyes. From there, with a vendetta against all things Stark, Vanko begins crafting his own arc reactor on his way to becoming the villainous Whiplash. But in the alternative opening that we didn't get to see, it's Tony Stark who takes center stage from the get-go. Not just that, but the impact of Tony's alcohol struggles are hammered home in this sequence. As the scene opens, Stark has his head down a toilet, vomiting wildly after yet another night of hitting the booze hard. Anxious about jumping out of a plane, the armored Avenger has to be coerced into action by Pepper Potts. This not only highlights Tony's drinking problem, but it also shows the anxiety old Shellhead has at being a hero, period, in addition to being a hungover addict. Number 8, Stephen Strange supports a stray. Doctor Strange. Brash, arrogant, and a general smug a-hole, a lot of the first Strange picture is seeing the transition of Benedict Cumberbatch's character from total douchebag to the heroic master of the mystic arts who would become one of the most powerful forces in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. As part of Strange's journey, he of course finds himself in Kathmandu as he attempts to get himself a spot under the learning tree of the Ancient One. One scene that ultimately ended up on the cutting room floor from this leg of the Sorcerer Supreme's adventure is a moment that saw Strange help an injured dog. Walking through the streets, our hero encounters the pooch in question. Initially strolling past the dog, Strange then leans down and uses a makeshift splint to help repair the animal's damaged paw. In terms of what this adds to Doctor Strange, it's just another element that adds to the softening of the title character, as part of his ascension to herodom. Plus, you know, the vast majority of audiences love dogs, go figure. Number 7, the Infinity Gauntlet Foreboding. Avengers Age of Ultron. One of the more random moments of Avengers Age of Ultron saw Thor take some sort of mystical bath in a cave. If this all felt a little bit odd and out of place, a big reason for that is due to how the scene was originally meant to be a lot longer and had a bit more context to it. What was originally intended and what was ultimately cut from the movie was for Thor to become fully possessed by the Norns, aka the Norse goddesses of fate. As part of this possession, the son of Odin would explain about the Mind Stone to Erik Selvig. Not only would Selvig learn about the stone that would bring Vision to life, but a line about the other infinite six that cannot be joined nor kept apart was a clear piece of foreshadowing about Thanos' plan to bring together the Infinity Stones. Plus, it was just another excuse to get Thor with his top off, I guess. Number 6, Life in the Quantum Realm, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Given that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is due to hit cinemas next year, that title alone suggests we'll get to see a lot more of the MCU's Quantum Realm. But in a case of what could have been, we so nearly got more details on that realm in Ant-Man and the Wasp back in 2018. With Michael Douglas's Hank Pym heading into the Quantum Realm to save his wife Janet, a deleted scene showcased a little more than what we ultimately got in the cinematic cut of that sequel. This cut sequence had Janet Van Dyne detail her husband how there's a lot more to the Quantum Realm than anyone had dared dream, specifically noting that there were worlds upon worlds, entire civilizations all housed within this realm. film. Instead, those watching the final version of Ant-Man and the Wasp ended up feeling like Janet had just spent years trapped in some sort of bland limbo, stuck in time and space, with nothing to keep her company but her own dwindling sanity. Sounds like life in the 2020s, to be honest. Number 5, W'Kabi's motivation, Black Panther. One of the more impactful moments of Ryan Coogler's stunning Black Panther was W'Kabi turning his back on his longtime friend and king T'Challa. Played by Daniel Kaluuya, W'Kabi wasn't just the best pal of Chadwick Boseman's titular hero, but he was also the head of the border tribe tasked with serving as Wakanda's front line of defense. So to see W'Kabi side with a villainous Killmonger when the crap really hit the fan, that was quite the shocker, I think you'll agree. While the trail of W'Kabi and his army was explained as being due to losing faith in T'Challa's leadership, a deleted scene gives a whole lot more backstory and emotion to why Kaluuya's character made such a decision. As he and partner Okoye meet in the tribal council room, W'Kabi explains his anger at T'Challa opting to hand over Ulysses Klaue to the CIA, rather than bringing him to Wakanda for justice to be served. For W'Kabi, his parents were both murdered by Klaue, and he had been promised the rogue would be dealt with by the people of Wakanda, so he was not a happy chappy. Number 4, Banner's suicide attempt and Cap's cameo, The Incredible Hulk. Louis Leterrier's The Incredible Hulk was the second MCU film to hit screens, and it would be another 3 movies until we got to see Chris Evans turn up as Captain America. Audiences so very nearly got a brief look at the Sentinel of Liberty back in Leterrier's 2008 picture though. The frozen body of Cap was quickly glimpsed in an opening sequence that ended up cut from The Incredible Hulk. This was all part of a suicide mission Ed Norton's Bruce Banner was to embark on in the first few minutes of the film. Heading to the Arctic, Banner had a gun with him and intends to end his life. We see Bruce trek through the snowy mountains, eventually pulling out the weapon with which he means to commit suicide. Of course, upon seeing that gun in Banner's hand, his alter ego surfaces and does, well, Hulk stuff. That stuff sees Bruce transform into the Green Goliath and smash up parts of the Arctic. Standard, really. It's here, as frozen, snowy remnants explode across the screen, that the body of Captain America can be partially seen in the ice. Test screenings of The Incredible Hulk resulted in a negative reaction to this opening. I know, what a world. And thus it was replaced by Banner instead, starting the film out in Brazil. Number 3, radioactive bug bites and assorted mutants, Iron Man. The closing credits of 2008, Iron Man famously had Nick Fury conversing with Tony Stark. There, Samuel L. Jackson's Fury makes mention of the Avengers initiative to RDJ Stark. But in an earlier cut of this scene, a cut that obviously didn't make it into the movie, part of Fury's berating of Iron Man sees him mention gamma accidents, radioactive bug bites, and assorted mutants. While the use of gamma accidents was a clear indicator of the next film in the burgeoning MCU, that being The Incredible Hulk, the radioactive bug bites and assorted mutants terms are nods to Spider-Man and the X-Men respectively. At this point in time, Sony Pictures had the exclusive rights to anything cinematically related to Spidey, whilst the movie rights for Professor X and his merry band of mutants were housed over at 20th Century Fox. As such, any mention of these characters in Iron Man or the MCU back then would have been references to characters that were so far out of reach. Since then though, Sony and Disney have come to a working agreement where Spider-Man can be involved in the MCU. As for the X-Men, they're now fully under the House of Mouse banner too, after Disney outright bought 20th Century Fox in March 2019. What a crazy world. Number 2, Odin lets Frigga die, Thor: The Dark World. For numerous reasons, The Dark World just didn't hit home in the same way as the other Thor pictures or the vast majority of other MCU releases. And while deciding to kill off Frigga in this 2013 effort was indeed a major moment, it could have been a death that was so much more meaningful and impactful. In the final cut of Thor: The Dark World, Rene Russo's Frigga does battle with Malekith, before being fatally stabbed by Algrim as Jane Foster helplessly watches on. While it is Algrim murdering Frigga in the same way in an initial cut of this scene, there was plenty more substance to this act. This deleted scene has Odin present for Frigga's execution. To make things even more dramatic, Anthony Hopkins' all-powerful character could have easily stopped his wife from perishing, but he instead opts to put down his weapon, to not use his otherworldly abilities and watch his bride being killed. With Thor rushing into the room as part of this scene, this could have led to such a vastly different dynamic between the Odinson and his father. Alas, the theatrical release of The Dark World merely has Odin entering the room to find Frigga already dead, which is still pretty damn sad. Number 1, The Lonely Pain of Captain America: The Avengers. How did this ever end up cut from The Avengers, I tell ya? With Chris Evans' Steve Rogers now defrosted ahead of forming Earth's mightiest heroes, there's a phenomenal cut sequence which sees the Sentinel of Liberty adjusting to the present day. In a truly tragic scene, we have Steve watching old footage of his days in World War II, with the realization hitting home that so many of his closest friends from that time have long since died. There's also a poignant moment where Cap finds Peggy Carter's details and briefly contemplates calling her. From there, Rogers takes in a coffee, rides the subway, gets offered a wireless code, yep, we're all old, aren't we? All while feeling like a man disconnected from his own life and displaced from his own time. Plus, there's a brilliant cameo appearance from Stan Lee, which is forever a welcome sight for any and all fans of the MCU. As this deleted sequence comes to a close, Steve is shown beating the THOR out of a heavy bag, which ties nicely into the scene from the Avengers where Nick Fury arrives to converse with Captain America. Still, I'll never understand why this brilliant sequence was cut. And that's our list. Know of any other awesome deleted MCU scenes that we missed? Let me know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, make sure to head on over to whatculture.com and find some more awesome articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com. Thank you as always for clicking on this video today, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Bye bye!